Welcome to another episode of the Movement DAO podcast. I'm joined today by two people, Anna from the Peace DAO, who will be my co-host today, and Ryan, founder of the Peace DAO. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing so good, Felixander.
Awesome.
So good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. And Anna, thank you so much for co-hosting. So those of you guys that don't know Anna, she is the head of the Peace Talks, which is the weekly Peace DAO meetings that happen every Wednesday. And she is near and dear to this cause. And so she's going to help me ask Ryan some questions today about his experience founding Peace DAO and what he sees as the future of Peace DAO in general. Ryan, Anna, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Felix. And thanks for joining us, Ryan. And obviously, thank you for starting a great initiative like Peace DAO. So to start us off, the war in Ukraine has been ongoing since 2014, but the full-scale invasion is quite recent. It started this February. Ryan, can you tell us how you're connected to Ukraine and what's been going on through your mind in February when you've heard the news about Ukraine being attacked?
Sure. The core of my lineage goes back many generations, starting with my great-grandparents and much further back than that in Ukraine, mostly Odessa and Kyiv. And so I'm Ukrainian by lineage. When this, my great-grandparents escaped Ukraine once the anti-Semitism was building in the region and across Europe. And so that's why they left. So seeing this invasion is near and dear to my heart.
Awesome. And, how did you come up with the idea for Peace DAO? Someone like you, I think you could have just donated and stopped there. What was your rationale for setting up an organization, and why set up a web3 organization and not just a traditional charity?
Well, I think some traditional charities are fantastic and have extraordinary impact. Some, it's hard to know if your money is actually going towards impact. And as a huge fan of web3 for democratization, decentralization of all things, I started to think, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if, it could do that to charity work? And so we came up with the idea for Peace DAO, and I wanted my money to go towards a community where people on the ground were solving problems, not, and where I knew that $1 would go to a high level of impact, not go into a black box.
Yeah, I remember when I just joined Peace DAO early on, you prioritized kind of supporting large organizations, and we had people from International Rescue Committee, and we're thinking of partnering with big NGOs. What was the thing that kind of changed that in your perspective, and how do you think Peace DAO will continue prioritizing the aid distribution from now forward?
Well, I think it's a subtle shift. The way I think about it now is these large NGOs have important work to do in terms of raising awareness, raising funds. However, Peace DAO can be a phenomenal execution arm for them, where instead of having to staff and monitor and track and execute, they could send funds to the Peace DAO and say, hey, Peace DAO, you have a track record of executing. You have the boots on the ground. You have the local knowledge, just given the fact that it's community run. Here's the money that we've raised. Go please do your thing. And so I see Peace DAO as an incredible execution partner for major NGOs that exist today.
It's actually, I'll just hop in and say it's almost like the most polite disruptor framework, right? Because you're not really trying to compete, at the same time trying to revolutionize the system around giving and high impact in a way that ultimately it sounds like you would want to end as a partnership.
Absolutely. I think, I believe everyone should play to their superpowers, right? And I think that, uh, private companies like, when you look at the debate of private companies versus government, like private companies, their superpowers is speed of execution. Government is addressing the needs of the collective, but not necessarily speed of execution. Um, I think that NGOs, for the most part, are in a similar path. They're good at thinking about problems. They're good at raising awareness. Speed of execution is I think varies wildly, and so we see ourselves as an execution partner, where any NGO will go raise money and then work with us to deploy $100,000 or $10 million in the most effective way possible. And final point here is, the Peace DAO doesn't judge itself based off total amount of dollars raised, right? We see everyone is saying, oh, we've raised X million or Y million or Z billion dollars. But very few people are talking about impact. And so once again, this goes to my point, some folks are very good at raising money, but can they have impact? At Peace DAO, we measure everything, as you both, Felix and Anna, know, around impact per dollar. And that's, all we will ever be focused on. And that's enabled by the power of a decentralized, community-led problem-solving platform.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So I think there's kind of two lines. But one thing I'd love to hear you both talk about is, I know you took a trip to Poland, and it was really, I think, kind of with this idea in mind where, are we looking at money raised, or are we looking at, did you leave a place better than you found it? And I know you guys both took a trip over there and kind of had your eyes open. So Anna, Ryan, I suppose maybe Anna, can you tell us a little bit how that trip was? And if you have questions for Ryan about it, by all means.
You
Yeah,
want to
so
start?
sorry, I think kind of the biggest takeaway from that trip was that we are on the right path in supporting the local organizations. I think kind of as Ryan mentioned, the good part of this large NGOs is, they have the visibility and are able to raise awareness at scale about some of the large problems. But people on the ground or people close to Ukraine, in Poland, who are volunteering there have a better understanding of more nuanced gaps that those large organizations don't necessarily see or have the capacity to fill in. And so that's kind of where I see Peace DAO stepping in and upholding this idea of efficiency, having our community source the problems that are really pressing, like, lack of food or inability to leave a combat zone or an occupied area, and have the community source these problems and then have the funding to help the volunteers on the ground solve them. That's been super impactful so far, and I hope we'll continue doing in the future. Ryan, how about yourself? Like, what were some things that stood out to you during that trip, and have your perspective of the war changed since we went there?
I think your points are spot on, Anna. What we were really looking to see is, what is it really like on the ground, and how much help is needed and who's having the most impact. So I'll go through each of one. Poland is an absolute hero in this story. Millions of people are taking refugees into their homes for indefinite periods of time. And I don't think we've seen a citizen-led refugee housing movement like we've seen in Poland almost anywhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the hearts of the Polish people blew me away. Now there are real issues that they're facing. We met with the U.S. ambassador to Poland, and he brought up a great point, which is, well, when a group of people, like one family, is staying in the home of another family for a long enough time, they start to have disagreements,
Right.
and maybe they stop getting along with each other. And so there are a lot of issues now in people's homes. Or what do they do with refugees when these disagreements start occurring, or they thought it was going to be for a month or two, and now it's been much longer than that. And so these problems are real. The Polish people are doing a heroic job, but there's a ton more that needs to happen. And I think everybody there was assuming that this would be a short-term thing, and now is realizing that's lasting much, much longer than expected. Even many of the refugees we spoke to were thinking that they would be back home very soon, and had amazing hope for victory. But we have to understand the realities, and the realities are that folks are going to need a lot of help for a long time. And so, yeah, the situation is very serious. There are a lot of atrocities happening to the Ukrainian people as they're migrating out of Ukraine. There's a lot. I came away heartbroken, to be honest. And I think this crisis got its time in the spotlight and a bunch of aid and a bunch of, attention. But now, is not anymore. Like, it's kind of old news, but the people need our help literally now more than ever.
Yeah, and I guess that's really the catch-22, right? Because as dire as the situation is, and the fact that it is more dire, it's not getting more press attention. It's getting less now. The news cycle continues. And as you said, also, the fact that I think most people projected that this would just be like a flash war that would be, over very quickly and there would be a resolution. So I guess the important question is, well, where does that leave Peace DAO, and where do you see Peace DAO kind of evolving or maturing into, as now we have less eyeballs on the situation? We still have a lot of people who really care about it. I don't in any way want to minimize that. There's a lot of attention still happening, but it's no longer the top story every day. Is Peace DAO planning to adapt to this kind of? It's really a new mode of operation now that you don't have a frenzy around donations and news cycles.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we need to make $1 go a long way more than ever before, because there may be less dollars coming into this. And we've noticed, kind of beating a dead horse here, but we realize that community can spend dollars in a far superior way than any top-down authority. And so by empowering a local person, with some aid to help their neighbors, with some equipment to help things for refugees, the dollar goes a much, much further way. So we think by leveraging Peace DAO, obviously we need as many dollars as we can, but overall we need less dollars. The dollar goes further. And then now everybody has a platform to help, because maybe the wealthy have taken their eyes off of this, or it's less hot or less attention, but the people on the ground still want to help, because they're seeing this war every day through their friends and families and relatives. And so this is a platform for them to go become a part of the DAO, become a part of a community, and start to help out.
Absolutely. One thing I know, Anna, you have some questions from Ukrainians on the front lines that are really topical to this particular discussion. Do you want to share any of those for Ryan?
Yeah, so whenever I have conversations with my friends, and both friends from my hometown and people fighting on the front lines, the question that comes up very frequently is, how do people in the US feel about Ukraine? And I get asked over and over again, and I'm just curious, what are some attitudes that you've seen people in your circles express? And have anyone also been, proactive in supporting Ukraine? Or what are the things that people say when you bring up Ukraine?
Well, I think that that's a tricky question. Um, from at least my circles, it is, people unanimously recognize it as a tragedy and a completely unnecessary loss, um, and atrocity against an entire nation. And so, I think there's very few people who see it, as other than that. Um, you know, my fear is that some people take their eye off the ball and they, stop thinking about it because it's too dark, or they think that it's helpless or hopeless. And, especially, many of us, myself, on having that Ukrainian background, you can't stop, right? You have like real human beings, millions and millions of people who are having their lives ruined every day. So they can't stop, right? They have no other choice. So we can't stop. We have no other choice. And so that's the part that's concerning to me, is that we somehow think that's a point in time, or it was a short-term thing, when it's an indefinite thing. I do see a lot of people who have taken action, though, a lot more than I expected. A lot of my friends in tech have gotten very actively involved. My friend Ryan Peterson at Flexport has done an absolutely heroic job managing logistics and sending supplies to Ukraine in the order of tens of millions of dollars worth. And so there are certain friends who have gone above and beyond that have really, surprised me in a positive way.
And that's amazing to hear. I think that is probably the reason why they're asking. It's really important for them to know that they still have the support. And, they fighting there on the front lines, risking their lives every second, being there, hearing that there are people far away who still care and that will continue to provide support makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely people who still care, who are still doing work. Um, and so I'd say there's a lot of allies all over the world for the cause. But we always need more.
You mentioned Ryan from Flexport. That's amazing that organizations like that step up to take action. Um, do you do you see any other do you see us engaging any other tech organizations in continue to support Ukraine, um, and what their role could be?
I do. I think that Peace DAO, is an incredible partner for anybody that wants to, you know, have impact and be a part of a community-led, uh, decentralized, um, you know, humanitarian organization. I think Peace DAO is the ultimate partner, and so, yes, like I think we've been focused on, um, executing against projects on smaller budgets in the past to prove out the concept. I think we've proven it out beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, the impact that we've had on a small budget has been extraordinary. I'd say we've had 10 to 100 times the impact per dollar than, um, your average, uh, organization. And we made so few dollars go such a far way. Um, and so yeah, we now it's time to take Peace out to the next level and to bring in more capital, more partners, and go a bit larger.
This is also, I'll
Yeah.
say, oh, sorry, Anna, a perfect segue to talk about, well, two things. First of all, why a DAO, why the Web3 platform? And I think that really leads into the second point, which is when you're trying to bridge over to people who aren't Web3 natives or fluent or even conversational in Web3, there's a huge kind of credibility hump you have to get over. And that's true for Peace DAO, and that's true for a lot of other, high impact social good organizations. And so what does it look like to form those partnerships with people who, who might think that, Web3 is just a lot of quick money grabs or things like that? They might not be aware. I mean, the average people I speak to are not aware that there are social good movements in Web3. They just think it's, a bunch of NFT sales and pyramid schemes. How do you overcome that when you are doing something amazing like with Peace DAO?
Yeah, well, I mean, Web3 is just a framework, right? It is what you use it for is what counts. And so if it's being used as a get rich quick scheme, then that application, I agree, is not a good one or a useful one for society. If you use it to unlock and unleash the power of the community, to harness collective wisdom to solve problems, I think it changes the world. And that's what we're doing. Like, think about it. Anybody in the world can go join the Peace DAO Discord and submit a proposal for use of funds on how to have impact. And so they don't have to go and apply for a job at an NGO and, have credentials and wait and then, have to work through a bureaucracy to get anything done. We value ideas based off their merits, and anybody in the world can submit ideas, proposals with zero credentials. And I think some of the smartest proposals we've received at Peace DAO are for people without those traditional credentials that may not have gotten those jobs. Um, and uh, and so I think I forgot exactly what the question is, but yeah, we've got something amazing here.
I guess, the kernel of the question is it's almost like, do you see it or not? And I think it's fair to say you see it,
Yeah.
I see it, Anna sees it. How do you get someone to see it who doesn't? How do you share that vision?
Well, I'd say judge an organization by their actions, not their words. Okay, there are a lot of organizations out there who have great words, who have great press, who have great headlines, but you go and you talk to Ukrainians and Polish people on the ground, as we did, and we listed organizations by name, some of whom have raised billions of dollars, and they're nowhere to be found. Okay, so some of the organizations with the best press and the best headlines, their words are great, but you go and ask the people, and the actions are nowhere to be found. Whereas we're building a community, a project, a DAO that's a 100% action oriented, because all there is actions. There's not press, there's not a bureaucracy, there's no board. It's just people submitting ideas and executing on those ideas, and the community voting on which projects get funded and have the best impact. That's all the Peace DAO is. So it's very simple. Your dollars are going towards what the community deems to be the highest impact projects that are sourced by minds all over the world. And, we hope to be judged by our actions.
Absolutely.
And just to illustrate Ryan's point, take, for example, we've supported one local organization with $10,000, and those $10,000 helped evacuate 1,600 people from Kharkiv and the other areas of eastern Ukraine, which is essentially people's lives saved. Because if they are not able to leave, they are subject, to death or injury from shellings and other atrocities that Russian soldiers bring there. And within then $10,000, it's 1,600 people evacuated and 180 pallets of food and hygiene aid packages distributed. So I think that's something that not many organizations can say, especially large organization, that they've done, especially in areas that are as hard to reach as, Eastern Ukraine, where there's constant fighting.
And with such a small fiscal footprint, right? When you think for these large organizations, $10,000 is just, a drop in a bucket, right? So I mean, I think that's what strikes me. So as I've been involved in Peace DAO, since early on, and what struck me is this idea, and Ryan, we've talked about this, and Anna, we've talked about this. How far is that $1 going? And that $1 is just like, the magnitude of it is insane at Peace DAO. It's absolutely insane. So I think that's really the message too, right? You want to get out is, well, why don't we cut up the dollar and see, this dollar didn't go to paying, custodians, administrative, bureaucratic overhead, and HR department. It went, but basically all of it went to Ukraine, and it went to a vetted, verified grassroots organization that has already shown us that they're doing great things.
Exactly. And I think that's another part that is important to highlight. We have community submitting the proposals, and kind of bringing our attention to these different areas in Ukraine that need support. Then we also have a rigorous vetting process, and we do talk to organizations and volunteer initiatives that we support. We make sure to check their social credentials, and so it's not just donating to a random group of people that we don't know or don't understand what they're doing, and most of them have that proven track record. So it is legit, and we encourage people to come join our Discord, and you can see the impact of every donation. We share both the photos and kind of small reports from the impact that these groups of people in Ukraine have achieved. And so there's this large transparency component. Where the funds that you've donated are going, and they are being spent in an impactful way. So that's your why for why Peace DAO.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to put an end to this idea that money solves problems. Okay, everyone is, your government's telling you, oh, we need $1 trillion infrastructure bill, and these organizations are raising billions of dollars. And that's all good, but just throwing money at problems doesn't solve it, right? We were able to, as Anna said, help rescue 1,600 people with $10,000, which would be, unheard of in the traditional nonprofit world. And so we're doing things for, thousands of dollars that would cost that would be near impossible for other organizations to pull off, or cost, they would tell you would cost way more money.
Absolutely. And so, shifting gears, what I'm really curious about now is the kind of the direct future of Peace DAO. What's kind of coming down the pike? Is there any interesting news or developments that Ryan or Anna, either of you, would want to share in terms of what's coming up? Don't all speak at once.
Yeah, I know. So there's a series of fundraising events that are planned to help us support Peace DAO operations. We're also looking forward to partner with more DAOs and see if there's people who are already have been big contributors to social movements and social impact, social causes, and see if they would be interested in joining Peace DAO, because it is essentially a unique organization that has been supporting, continues to support Ukraine in a truly decentralized way. So there's been, for example, a few projects for Ukraine that are also supposedly DAOs, but they would only donate to one organization. And then the decentralization component is just a lot of people putting in the money. And so here we're testing out a truly new model for how nonprofits could work. The barrier to entry is quite low. You can either donate a small amount, or you can join and help us out with a few tasks. So we're hoping that more people will join, and looking forward to growing this organization and scaling our efforts, both fundraising wise and volunteer wise. And then I think we're also working on legally or incorporating the organization, so then we can start partnerships with established nonprofits or tech companies. So if your organization is interested in supporting Ukraine and wants to find the most effective way to do that, please reach out, check out our work, and I think you will not regret this.
Ryan, what are you most excited
Couldn't
about?
have said it better myself.
Awesome. Well, Anna, did you have any other questions for Ryan?
We could talk all day.
I know. I
but
want
I
to be
think
respectful
for the purpose
of
of
the
this
time.
episode,
Yeah, Ryan, I know you
we'll
have to
keep
hop
it
off.
short.
I do want to say thank you so much for your time, Ryan. It really means a lot, and thank you just for for ideating this and putting it into into the world. I mean, I think this is such a powerful platform, and it's really an honor to be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Felix and Anna, who you've both poured your hearts out into this platform just to help. And you've had such tremendous impact. I can't even, I can't possibly overstate how grateful I am for both of your involvement. Peace DAO would not be possible without you both, and the amazing community of people who have gotten involved just because of their excitement to help.
Well, thank you so much, guys. This was another episode of the Movement DAO podcast. Thank you for joining and listening. Keep an eye out. We have episodes dropping every Wednesday.